Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Area 312 Rock and Metal Vodcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, along with my co-host,
Rex.
Friends, before introducing our very special guest artist today, we want to welcome back a good friend of ours, Mr. John DeLaurentis. Welcome, John.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you. And friends, John, he's the host of Follow the Light Music Review, and you can find the description or the link in our description below to his excellent review channel. Check it out. And also want to say that John, this past Christmas, blessed us, Rex and me, with this terrific album. It's the gift that keeps on giving all year round, Clark, the gift of music. But I can't say enough about this great album. John blessed Rex and I with a copy. And then later, John said, hey, guys, I think I can reach out and maybe get these guys for an interview if you're interested. And after hearing this great band, I said, please, John. And here we are today. So thank you again for all of that, John. And without further ado, friends, our next guest artist, they delivered this slam dunk of a prog rock album in August of 2024. It scored a 90% on Andrew Rockwell's Angelic Warlord. And as you know, friends, Andrew's no easy sell. A 90% is a grade A effort. And we have with us today on lead vocals, we have Kyle KG Graves. We have Doug Bowers on keys, bass, guitars, and vocals. And then we have on drums with us Kyle Fagala. And collectively, they are known as EchoVerse. Welcome, gentlemen. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Guys, such a great band, and we have a lot of questions. So if you're ready to lock and load, we'll just delve in. That's okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Guys, first question. How and when did the band form?
Oh, Doug, you want to take it?
Sure. Gosh, what was it? About 3 or 4 years ago, a friend of mine moved back to this area. We've known each other for about 35 years. We just got together and jammed on some stuff that he'd written in the past 10 or 12 years. And it really, we got in my studio, we started recording a couple things, and it was really sounding pretty good. So I reached out to my friend Rob Perez from Visual Cliff. And Rob and I have known each other for about 20 years. We've worked on a lot of projects together. And Rob listened to some of this stuff we were working on. I said, man, this is really good. Why don't we, instead of me just guesting, why don't we all co-write some stuff and maybe think about putting out an album? And by that time, we decided on a name, which is Asher. I think we spelled it A-C...
A-S-T-H-E-R.
There you go. Thank you. We wrote some songs. We didn't write much in the way of lyrics. I've been a singer in every band I've ever been in, and I told the guys I didn't want to sing, and let's find a singer. Rob said, hey man, I just happened to have been in contact with this guy out in LA who's pretty good, and we were going to work on some music together, and I think I'm just going to ditch whatever we were working on, and let's get him in and let's do an album. And so Asher released Beginnings the year before last. And it one of the tracks on there, we made a couple videos, but one of the tracks made it to Prog Magazine's songs you got to hear. Track of
the week. Yeah.
And I think we came in second.
Mm-hmm.
That. I think we did really well. We got some great reviews. In the meantime, my friend who had moved here decided he didn't have enough time for this. And Rob said, I think Rob and KG both said, hey, Doug, your drum programming is cool, but let's get a real drummer. And so KG recommended 2 friends of his, and we auditioned both of them. And Kyle Fagala got the job. And the rest, they say, is history.
That's right.
Guys, where did you get the name EchoVerse then?
Oh, that was Kyle.
I guess it was me.
Yep.
So, coming into a band late, it turns out that in one way or another, I think all four of us are sort of alpha personalities. Doug, especially so, is like the musical leader and the producer or whatever you kind of want to call that, and he's the one that has connection points to all three of the other of us. And so I think in that sense, we all sort of, yeah, we give it up to Doug and say, hey, this is ultimately your call. But he's also a pretty easygoing person, someone that's really easy to work with. Um, in every circumstance I've ever been a part of, I'm used to being the one that's in charge, and I'm comfortable not being that. But I think coming into the band, it was sort of like I warned people, I think on the first Zoom, it's like I have strong opinions, like I'm gonna want to push for things to be excellent or as great as they can be. And that's not to say that anything before wasn't. It's just that's just the way that I always approach it. And, so we had some little tussles and things, kind of early on. But I think on the band name, like for whatever it's worth, it just felt like maybe appropriate considering that I was coming in. We had another guy who was exiting out, Blake, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, what if we come up with a different name? And I don't think we even suggested too many before that one was suggested, and it just felt like it kind of fit.
Yeah.
And so, it's Prague, so I love the idea of like outer space and stuff like that. And even on a different level, just for me, like visually speaking, like movies about space and outer space and sci-fi and that sort of stuff. I know for KG, that's another thing he really likes. Like Interstellar is one of his favorite movies. I love 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like in another life, I'm a film director. So I love the idea of like EchoVerse, and then it kind of hints at like, Echoes by Pink Floyd and some of that kind of stuff. So, you sometimes after the fact add that sort of weight to a band name, but it just sort of all like clicked with that kind of a name. And it's been helpful because visually, like with the album cover and even the vinyls, you're able to attribute some moon names and space names and stuff like that. I don't know that we've really done our space epic musically yet, but maybe one day.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah,
It's coming.
So. But no, I mean, I think as with everything in this band, I kind of maybe went about this a little bit different direction answering it, but it's been interesting to have four guys in four different states. Like I've never met Doug or Rob. Like we've never occupied physical space together. I've KG I've spent some time with, but the fact that we're able to do this on the level that we are is amazing. It's a testament to technology and so on. And I think the Christian progressive rock space, which is an admittedly small space, but it's been really an honor to be able to join this late in the game and be given the opportunity to suggest a band name and not be spat on, So thank you, Doug and KG.
You're welcome. Well, I think KG also had mentioned on several occasions that people would ask him, well, what's up with the name Asher?
Yeah. The thing is, naming a band is increasingly difficult. As time goes on, all the good names are taken. Everything's trademarked and all that. And invariably, I would tell people, "Hey, I'm in a new band. We're called Asher," and their heads would kind of cock to the side, and they go, "What does that mean, and how do you spell it?" And that's not, it's a cool name because it is different, but at the same time, you want something like Kiss that's going to be memorable that people get right away. So now, when they say, "What's the name of your band?" I say EchoVerse. It's like Universe, but with Echo. Oh, okay, I can spell that out online.
Yeah, Kiss was taken, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that was my first suggestion, but
we shot that down. Yeah.
Which they've retired now, sort of. They're coming back sans makeup, but anyway, I digress. So
we could have a whole other conversation about Kiss.
Yeah, we could.
we'll digress and go.
I'll throw this in there very quickly. Roy, who does the Prog Report, he's dying to do a Kiss Wheel of Rock. I'm just throwing that out there. So if we have any massive Kiss fans, you need to connect with him. Okay.
Kiss takes a lot of flack for their simplicity, but everybody from just about every wheelhouse, somebody likes Kiss, So kudos to them. Yeah. Kudos to them. So really quick, one of my questions was, not to take up a whole lot of time, but what does Asher mean, guys? Because that was in my notes. What did it mean?
I had my wife is really into gems, and there is a cut of diamond called the Asher cut. Like you've got different cuts in different trademarked ways of cutting a diamond, and one of them is Asher. So that came to me.
I know the empty tube is real. It doesn't matter what you think or
guys, let's talk about influences then. Collectively, who are some of EchoVerse's influences band-wise?
How much time you got? You're talking about four guys who are just all over the spectrum.
Yeah, we really are. Yeah.
Gosh, you're talking about influences as a band, not individually for, okay.
Right. Collectively.
You know, I think it goes back to all the classic prog rock bands, you know. Obviously, well, I could sit here and name Yes and Kansas and Genesis and Pink Floyd and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys feel any differently? That's sort of like the baseline.
Yeah, I think
the foundation of what we do.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Classic prog, and then of course we are Christians, and that's certainly nothing we shy away from. So we want to inject that, and that comes from, you know, you mentioned the Res Band earlier, all the great classic rock and Christian metal bands that have been around have collectively influenced us.
Very cool, very cool. Now, guys, let's talk about Whispers Between Worlds, released, I believe it was August the 20th of 2024. Tell me about the album title meaning. Who came up with it, and what does Whispers Between Worlds mean?
Kyle?
I may have suggested that.
I think you did, yeah.
But
I think we all took to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, y'all step in and kind of correct this. August feels like a million years ago too, but the vinyl just came out, as John knows. Yeah, so Whispers Between Worlds. I mean, I think the sort of connecting theme, especially that's found on the epic, is this conversation between man and God, and in that sense, it is effective whispering or communication between worlds. And I think to whatever degree you look at Christianity, there is a certain explicit connection between God and man, and there's an explicit separation between God and man. And I think both of those energies and that tension between the two are relevant to the Christian walk. And, you know, our 31-minute epic, you know, The War Within, is effectively that conversation between God and then man and Satan, and sort of that journey and that path. And I think the Whispers Between Worlds, in that sense, it kind of borrows from EchoVerse and the space themes, but also just sort of leans into that constant communication that exists there. So
very cool, very cool. And guys, something I've noted in reading, I'm one of those guys now. I really need glasses, admittedly, but it's getting harder to read the liner notes for me. But I'm one of those guys that does his best to scour the liner notes, and I noticed you all of you guys and friends, I'd like to make mention Rob Perez, the guitarist. He's not here today, so we do miss Rob. But all of you guys are very much a hands-on band. Doug, you are involved in the production, mixing, and mastering. Rob, he does the vinyl mastering. The music is you, Doug, and Rob, and then the lyrics from UKG, Doug, and then you, Kyle. Art design, there's a gentleman named Kurt Crocker, Trenton Elkins, and you, Kyle. So you guys are involved in the total package, and I want to talk about that here in a second. Doug, I want to ask you, are you a doctor?
In a previous life, I was a dentist.
Okay.
once a dentist, always a dentist, Doug.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking is because I noticed in one of your videos, you're jamming away on the keys there, and it says Dr. Bowers on a placard. And I'm like, I've got to ask Doug, you know, if I need to call him doctor or if he's just the whiz at keyboards.
That was when I was in the Air Force. That was the name on my door. Actually, EchoVerse is the only band in the world that has two dentists.
I thought you were one too, Kyle.
Yeah.
Like, you know, who puts a prog band together with two dentists?
The best team in rock and roll is EchoVerse.
That's right.
Yeah, more dentists than any other band. That should be our like lead.
There you
That's our tagline.
4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend EchoVerse as the band that rocks.
Like that.
Emerging from dark shadows, seeking to seal your fate. Come with me, your time is short, but hurry, it's
guys, let's continue on here. This is the total package, and as a fan, a new fan, here's why. Number one, the artwork. I think art has to be number one, awesome, because it's the first foot forward that somebody notices of an album when they see it on the racks. Now, granted, I'm old school, but it not only has to be pleasing to the eye, but it should match the contents within.
All right.
And then the contents within have to say something. It has to be good songcraft. And then finally, we get to the production, and you could have a great song, but if the production's not there, it can sink the ship. And so, guys, on all points, I find no flaw. Now, here's the catch. I am nobody. But let me continue. If I am nobody, that means that nobody finds any flaws. This is a great album, guys.
That means a lot.
Yeah, truly.
I want to make mention again. I want to delve into this a little bit. Our buddy Andrew Rockwell, he has Angelic Warlord. It's online. He does a plethora of album reviews. He's not an easy sell, if you will. And he scored this a 90%, Whispers Between Worlds, a 90%, and he called it a progressive aficionado's delight. And it's within Angelic Warlord's top 10 albums of 2024. So I'd like to ask then, guys, with that said, the expertise and care given to this album, how long did it take to craft the total package? Because you guys are involved in production, the art, and the songcraft. So from top to bottom, how long did it take to bring the total package of this album to fruition?
It was under a year. How many months?
But close, right? Wasn't it? Were we about close from the time we brought Kyle in and started writing in earnest? It was close to a year, probably.
Yeah.
I think I tried out on Not Like the Other in, man, I'll probably get it wrong, I think July.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then following August.
It's just like right at a year.
We had just released the Asher album, probably a few months before that.
Yep. I think that was March. But yeah,
Doug
I mean,
not waste time, by the way.
We are definitely a hands-on band. Doug is very driven, and he and Rob kind of create the musical bed, the foundation. Rob will send, and Doug, feel free to correct me. Rob will send a lot of guitar riffs and different parts that he sends them to Doug, and Doug is the master manipulator. He'll take a piece of this and he'll take it and put, this would make a good bridge for this song, and he'll lay that foundation together. He'll put more guitars and bass and keys and everything on it. And then he would send that to me, and I'm a relatively new songwriter. In my early 50s, had never really written a song before 51, 52. So it's been really a cool adventure for me, having been a lifelong music junkie, not a music fan, but just it's been in my blood. But to be able to take these amazing songs that Rob and Doug have pieced together and put melodies down, write lyrics for them. And then when we were looking for a drummer, I had a couple of guys in mind, and Kyle was one of them. And the stuff that I had seen Kyle play was fairly straightforward, right, Kyle? I mean, it wasn't anything too crazy progressive. So when he sent us the demo for Not Like the Other, his audition, we were just like, whoa, this guy's way more than what I've seen him play in some of the videos and things that he'd shown me before. So he was like the perfect, last piece of the puzzle that we needed to bring this thing through.
Well, let me add to that, if I may. Kent and I both grew up in Arkansas. How many people in Arkansas love progressive rock that you're going to know that are going to, want to play in a progressive rock band with you? And so I'd never really gotten the opportunity. The only opportunity I'd had was as a late teenager into early kind of 20s. Had a friend whose name is also Kyle, believe it or not. We can't have him in the band. Too many Kyles. 3 Kyles, too many Kyles. And we both love prog. He's the one that played Dream Theater for me the first time, and he was always on to these new bands and always have a new one to listen to. And have you seen this Pain of Salvation thing and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And so we had like a little sort of instrumental progressive rock band for, a couple of years, but never would have had a singer or a bass player or a keyboard. You just can't find those people. So truly, I spent then 20 years, I won't call it wandering in the wilderness, but playing in other bands because you're going to play the music you can, whether that's worship or that's cover band stuff or that's simple blues rock or whatever, but always loving prog, just never having an opportunity. So Kyle, in the same way that you have been around music, I mean, you were an A&R guy for Sony for however many years and have been around music and love music and go to see tons of shows. I too, in a way, was just waiting for the opportunity to be able to share those talents or to lean into those gifts. And in reality, you don't know if you can play prog until you're sort of given that opportunity. So when you brought forth this opportunity in this song, I listened to it. I was like, oh, man, this is great. Like you're just kind of waiting for that. And you only find it with four random people living in different corners of the United States, you know, and the fact that it happens to be all four Christians, which is even cooler. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's a thing that God kind of set forth for us, I think.
I know all the God words. I know how to play this game. I wear a cross and nice clothes. You're not the righteous man I am.
Well, I'd like to ask John a question, and thank you again, John, for giving us the album. But I know that the band had a Kickstarter. How did you find out about that? Because I know you helped with the Kickstarter as a fan. How did you hear about the band? I'm curious about that, John.
Well, that I guess it showed up on my feed. Maybe it was on, maybe when I was scrolling through Facebook. I can't remember exactly where. But I saw a Kickstarter for this band EchoVerse, and I think it said in there that it was a prog rock band, and I'm a huge prog rock fan in my life. I love prog rock. I'm a kind of an all-around music fan, but prog rock especially I really love. And I tuned into the video, the not like the other. And I started listening. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. Because you don't hear about too many Christian prog bands. I mean, there's the Neil Morris, and there's you know, there's some out there, but it's not as a genre. Prog rock is not like, it's kind of like a niche. You know, it has its fan base. So, and I said, oh, this is a Christian band, and this is fantastic musicianship. And I was blown away just by hearing that song. And I said, this is I love it, because like I said, the other band, Damascus, who was that Christian band that I was into from the 80s, you know, I haven't really listened to too many other prog Christian bands that I know of, you know, that are out there. So I said, this is fantastic. So I saw the Kickstarter, and I think you were trying to get like 10,000 or something maybe initially. And it was at something like 5,000 or 6,000. I'm like, really? And Kickstarter, of course, works the way you have to reach your funding for the project to go through. So I'm like, this band is so good. I really, really pray that they make it through to the funding. And so I started advertising it, this Kickstarter, on different Facebook pages, telling, you know, like posting in other places that check out this band, check out this video, this song. And from there, it's just like, then it started, I just saw it increasing the funding until you made the funding. So I was really excited when that happened.
Yeah, and from the four of us, John, the fact that you championed our band, I mean, thank you isn't enough. You've done some amazing reviews for us and really helped spread the word. So we love you, brother. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. It's great music. You guys are awesome. And just one of the things, like, obviously the rhythm section of the band is very important as well, but I'm a guitar player too, so I'm always like tuned into the guitar. But I was blown away by the music of both musicians. Like when I saw Kyle, I think Kyle is like you really can play the drums. You know, and like I said, I think in one of my reviews, you have to be good musicians to play prog rock. It's complex music. It also demands more time and attention to get into it. It's more complex. You can't just listen to a prog album once and make an opinion on it. You have to really kind of delve into the layers of it, which is one of the things I love about prog. Challenges you. So, but yeah, so I was very pleased. And then when I got the entire album, you know, I think I was blown away even more than that initial song, especially with the epic, the 30-minute epic.
The War Within.
Yeah, The War Within. And Rob's not here, but you can relay this to him. But and I may have said this on my channel, but his guitar tone is just so good. I mean, he just has that sound. He's like one of those guitar players that I hear him play, and he's got his own distinct style. It just has a really, really fantastic tone, guitar tone.
John, when he sends me his tracks, I don't touch them. I really don't. I don't add any effects. I might pan them a little bit differently, but I do not touch his guitar tracks. They're perfect for the song every time he sends them. So I don't, kudos to him.
Yeah, and I know that I was not familiar with the visual cliff, but I know that that's now being re-released in the 20th anniversary, and Rox Records is behind.
Rox Records pick it up,
yeah. So that's I'm excited to hear that because I was not.
Great out. I bought it when it came out. That's because I've known Rob that long.
Wow, looking forward to that.
So, friends, John was talking about Visual Cliff. For those who might not know, be sure to check out EchoVerse on there, and we'll post the links and everything in the description. Check out EchoVerse, but also Rox Records is releasing Visual Cliff, which features Rob Perez on guitar.
One of these is not like the other. One of these is not the same. One of these is not like the other. Without love, it's all in vain.
John, do you have the vinyl albums near you by chance?
Yeah, I'll get them.
Because those are works of art. Guys, I want to ask, and we'll let John get back in the mix here, but great album art representing the contents within. And then I was going to ask Kyle, and Kyle left. What was
I think he was going to get a vinyl.
He's getting vinyl.
Get his vinyl.
Yeah.
So, John, I want you to flash those, like one color was like encephalitis or something. I don't know. You had these great colors that you were boasting, and I'm like, those are awesome. Go ahead and
Enceladus, which was a moon that I didn't know about until the vinyl showed up. We pulled colors from the cover and worked with this really great record plant in Burlington, Vermont. They actually just moved to Albany, New York, which is North New York, but they do the most beautiful splatter, and they take their time. Okay. It got us a little behind, but I feel like it's worth it. So, John, maybe show yours. Which one is yours? You have the
I have the encephalus and Ganymede one. Yeah,
okay.
I have so if I have them in the right order, put in the sleeve.
And you put them in different protectors, which I love that. I love that commitment. This is great. Next time I'll fix that. But basically there's the regular that's 1 of 100 that's orange and green that pulls from the colors on the cover. Then there's a splatter variant of that's of 20. This is the one that John has. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's beautiful. Vinyl, like in person, it really shines and everything. And then there's another of 20. And then we did a bunch of these 1 of 1s that are all completely unique. So there's like this one. This is the Eye of Sauron. It's not been released yet, but it kind of,
nice.
Lord of the Rings type thing, but there's 20 of those. So I got a little goofy with, all the detail there, but I spent, I think 3 straight days working on figuring out all the different colors and how does this make sense to movies and prog and video games and fantasy novels and stuff like that. And the band fortunately didn't tell me to jump off a cliff. They said, you can do this. So
it's not bad having an overachiever in the band.
That's right.
He's a little insane.
If I'm not mistaken, guys, correct me where I'm wrong. It's echoverseband.bandcamp.com. Is that a place where people can go and check out your product? I think I took that directly from the echoverseband.bandcamp.com. Yeah. And then your website is echoverse.band. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that confusing? Don't you just wish it could just be like echoverse.com? But, stuff is taken. There's a podcast called EchoVerse. Anyway,
we made it.
Kyle, getting back to the art then, your name was included along with two others concerning the album art. I'm just curious, what was your part of the album art?
Yeah, so I in my other life, so I'm an orthodontist, so dentist, and I became an orthodontist specialist in moving teeth and do that most of the time. But I also co-own a marketing agency called Neon Canvas that's located here in Memphis, and it's over 9 years, it's grown to about 60 employees, so it's a big company. And I've always loved art and storytelling, and did yearbook and newspaper as a kid in high school, and music is a form of storytelling, sure. And I've always loved classic art and contemporary art and all those kind of things for what it's worth, and love photography. And with the marketing agency, I have access to all these like amazing creatives. And so Trenton and Kurt are two of the most talented people that I am able to work with. And so I took concepts to them for kind of what I wanted the art to look like. Now we have, AI as an option for helping like come up with some of these concepts. But I'm also a firm believer that when I have graphic designers on hand, that we should work with them. And so it was sort of a collaborative effort from idea and concept to execution, and then putting it all together, and managing to misspell a word or two along the way, probably. So I will say, like, the most arduous thing from a design perspective is getting all the text in place and making sure that it's spelled correctly, and that for Rob it says rhythm guitar and this, and all that kind of stuff. It's really a slog, but I don't wish that upon any enemy. But the art to me, it's like very, very important. And when I see releases that come out where I don't think the art is great or it feels kind of phoned in, I automatically prejudge the album, which is probably unfair. But I just have always been that way. I want it to look crisp and set it up. And I think about the classic albums that are great in their own right, but when they are elevated by the art, it makes them even better. And so, is Dark Side of the Moon, Dark Side of the Moon without that cover? Yes, but also no. And I'm a huge Beatles fan, and is Abbey Road is good without what was kind of like an afterthought? They were going to go to the top of a mountain to take a photo for this last album, but no, we'll just walk across the street. But it somehow is perfect, right? So, anyway.
Sure. And where without the Abbey Road cover, where will we get all those clues about Paul's death, right?
I was going to say,
Right.
we would have never known exactly how fake the current Paul was post 1966. Yes, I'm with you for sure.
Oh, fall. So, John DeLaurentis, do you know any good copy editors that could help these guys out?
He's already offered, and I'm going to take him up on it. There's no doubt.
John's the man. John's the
He's
man.
proofreading our next album.
Very good.
Don't think I've forgotten that, John.
Doug, this next one's for you. You're chiefly there with the album production. So what goes into the production for the band with the songs crafted? What do you do to make sure everything's up to the standard that you guys are setting up the bar high for EchoVerse?
Well, first of all, getting the tracks from the other guys. Like I said, Rob sends me his guitar tracks, and they're perfect. I don't have to do anything to them. Kyle and I work painstakingly on how to this is the first time Kyle's ever done anything like this. And, it probably took us a couple months to figure out the best way to get all these drum tracks from his drum room to me. And the same thing with KG. KG has come a long way as far as really recording pristine vocal tracks. So I'm blessed because I get all this great content. But once it comes to me, then my thing is to just put it together, to mix a song and edit it the way I hear it. And then I'll send mixes to these guys, and they'll give me their 2 cents worth. In the case of Kyle, he'll give me his $200 worth. But, it's just like everybody really has, in that sense, everybody has a hand in the production. I'm just the guy that knows how to do it, how to put it together. But, the input, not only of their individual tracks, but how they explain to me they want something to sound. So I although yes, I'm technically the producer, and technically the one that puts this all together. It's everyone's input is indispensable as far as I'm concerned. You know, especially Kyle. Kyle will give me several pages worth of notes on, and he's so driven and so precise that I'm able to take all the information he gives me and okay, well, it's time to remix. Let's remix it this way, and then we bounce ideas off each other, and they're bouncing ideas to me, and they're all absolutely wonderful ideas. So, I'm just kind of like the funnel, I'm kind of the gatekeeper in the funnel. And, I can take a lot of credit for how it sounds, but I also have to give credit where credit is due. And I think we're all a part of the production process overall.
Guys, you all are far from being heavy-handed, yet you are very open as a band about your Christian faith, and I'm very grateful for that. Regarding this, it said that it's a profound journey through faith and introspection, showcasing your dedication as a Christian band to honor the Creator. So I want to ask each of you then, in your own words, when did your respective relationship with Christ begin? We'll start with you, Jim.
Sure, yeah. I grew up going to church, sort of considering myself a Christian, I think, most of my life, definitely living very worldly. But, as long as I made it to church on Sunday, I was okay. But actually, it's funny, I was just looking at a calendar the other day. In maybe a week, it will be 25 years. So I was 29 years old. God was definitely trying to get my attention. I felt the pull. I felt a nudging. Walking through a mall one day, went into a Christian bookstore, picked up a Bible, flipped through it, got confused, walked out. I made it to the threshold of that bookstore, and this sweet little old lady said, "Can I help you with something?" And I said, "Oh, I was looking for a Bible, but I just can't understand what I'm reading." And she goes, "Honey, you picked up the King James version. Let me help you." So she handed me an NIV, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I can read that." And that was still a few years before I came into a relationship with God. But my wife and I had been kind of church shopping a little bit. We found this church that just felt different, started to make relationships, understand what a real relationship with Jesus is about. And it was about 25 years ago. That's been my journey. Again, I think I would have probably fought you if you told me I wasn't a Christian before that. But that was just strictly, kind of going to church and being in the orbit of churchy Christianity things.
Thank you for that, KG. How about you, Doug?
Oh man, I tell you, my walk really kind of mirrors KG's. I grew up in a church too. I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and I was an acolyte, sang in the choir. Just that was a big part of my life. I started playing in clubs as a rock musician when I was 17. So no matter how late I was out on Saturday night into Sunday morning, I still usually made it to church with my mom. That's how important it was to me. But as KG said, I wasn't a Christian. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. And it wasn't until I was about 35 years old where I finally got it. My mom got born again when I was a senior in high school. My dad thought she was crazy. My dad got born again probably 5 years later, and it took probably another 7, 8, 9 years for me to come around. And that's been 35 years ago. So now, and when I left my former denomination and found myself in the Anglican Church. very Orthodox Anglican church. Who's the bass player in the praise band was Dave Hope, who was also one of the pastors in this church. And so yeah, it was probably about 35 years ago.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool that Dave. I knew that Dave was a pastor, and it's cool it's the same church. So
Yeah,
he's one of my favorite bass players. Had a great tone.
I saw him not too long ago.
Nice, nice. How about you, Kyle?
Well, I'm the young guy, so I'm 40. I don't know if that's young, but relatively. And my story is maybe not as exciting as that, like as a testimony goes. I mean, I grew up in the church. The sort of church was the Church of Christ for what it's worth, which is somewhat ironic because that's an a cappella movement. And so to the degree that I played music and instruments and all that, it was always in the context of being outside of the church and never in a worship setting. Although now the churches of Christ, there's some that have instruments and some that don't. And each church is autonomous, so there's no governing body. So they're all very different. So if you've ever had a bad experience or a good experience, you show up at a Church of Christ somewhere, it's, who knows what it's going to be like. But I think I got baptized when I was 12, at a youth rally, and was always very, very kind of, by the book, and have always been very faithful. Now, when did faith become my own truly? Probably somewhere in my 20s. And I'm fortunate to have a really great wife who grew up as a missionary kid, also in a Church of Christ background, and she was in Russia for many years. And so the church and all that has always been a huge part. I help out with Sunday school and love theology and love all that, And so it was 2 hours shy of a minor in Bible in college, for what it's worth. And so, music and Jesus have always been important to me, but they never really combined in a sense until about 10 years ago. Started playing in a worship setting, but it had to be outside of Sunday morning, given just the tradition. And so 2 years ago, we started doing that on a Sunday morning. And so now I get to play most Sundays. And that, to someone who's played in, different musical settings, which I have, and have played hundreds of concerts in all kinds of different ways, there is something about performing worship music and worshiping behind a drum set that is meaningful in a way that the others are not. And for me, like, that was affirming to it being a good thing. Growing up in a setting where instrumental music was like a bad thing, which is, I know, sounds kind of crazy to pretty much everyone else. The affirmation that you get from performing that music is proof in and of itself, outside of all the theological, conversations you could have or considerations. And now this is a whole different thing, which is to play progressive rock, which I just love in a Christian context, is really special too. So, yeah.
Look at all the lonely people. Look at all the lonely people. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream.
The Beatles choosing Eleanor Rigby to cover. Was that a random pick, or was there a specific reason?
Definitely not a random pick. Who's first of all, who's not a Beatles fan? Pretty much everybody in the world that can at least know, you might not even know, oh, that's the Beatles, like a younger person, but they know the songs. And amongst 100 favorite Beatles songs, where are they? Right there. Eleanor Rigby was my favorite Beatles song, and I had just brought it up to the guys. I said, "What do you guys think about doing this?" Doug came back with a killer arrangement for it, and I was like, "This is going to have some legs." And then I think that was even before we brought Kyle in. And then when Kyle added some drums to it, I think our favorite review. What was it, Kyle? Somebody said too much drum presence.
Yeah.
in our version of Eleanor Rigby. Pretty hard to not have too much drum presence on a drumless song. But yeah, it just, we love how it came across. And I think that was a good way to introduce EchoVerse to the world, have a song that everybody knows. I happened to I guess 2 summers ago, my family and I took a trip to Ireland, and we found this 800-year-old burned out church with tombstones inside the church. I guess at a certain point in the last 800 years, the roof caved in, so they started burying people inside the church. Very cool Gothic look. So while we were over there, I shot some video, and we put that together, and came out great. Our friend Christian Rios did the video for us, and just fantastic. So we thought it was a good way to introduce, like, who's this new band, and then hopefully that opens the door for people hearing our original music.
Quick trivia question for the Beatles fans here. Father Mackenzie, what was his original name going to be in the song? Anybody know?
Father McCartney, was it?
Very good. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think George Martin urged Paul to maybe tweak it. So he did. And that's where that came from.
Yeah, I had a question about what did the spoken word at the beginning of Eleanor Rigby and at the end, where did that come from? That choice to put that in there into the song.
I think we just wanted to make it proggier. You know, nothing screams prog like a spoken word kind of thing, and we wanted to go with something of the period. And Kyle, respond to how we came up with that. I think yours is an interesting perspective.
Yeah, sure. So I think that the question was, okay, Eleanor Rigby, which we kind of know, like John and Paul saw her, gravestone and kind of wrote this song, imagining what her life would have been like and so on. And so we kind of backtracked that to when she would have been alive or when she would have been a child. And so that opening to the track is supposed to be if she's a child, what she might have heard in the room with her. And so it's a Winston Churchill, kind of oration from, the wartime. Maybe that dates it a little bit off, but it kind of hits at that like radio era in the London, extended era that maybe she could have been listening to. And then by the end of the track, Father Mackenzie is, after his funeral speech that no one showed up to, he's, making tea and going about his business. And so you'll hear the tea kettle whistling and all that kind of stuff. And so that was all Doug finding those sound effects. And, honestly, if anything, like on this next album, and we'll see if there's windows for it or not, but I love sound effects. Again, I love cinema. I love being able to combine all those things because it evokes emotions. And the beautiful thing is that it evokes emotions for people differently. I don't think anyone would hear those and put together how we were thinking about it, but I think it's cool to think that they might think of something totally different and it might mean something different to them. So that's
Kyle and I have actually had that conversation. How can we insert maybe more dialogue from a movie or something like that into some of the songs on this next album? Kyle is much more into movies and would probably know where to go to grab a snippet to go with any given songs. But we've definitely had that conversation. I like that too. I think it's cool.
Well, do you think you'll do another cover?
We've tossed it around. I don't know that we have the time to.
Okay.
What do you think, Kyle?
It's funny you asked that. It's occurred to me, but it sort of feels like, the cover, that the point of that was almost like getting the band together to put something on tape effectively.
Right.
And seeing was the proof of concept there. And then it was also like a good introduction into the world. At this point, it's like, what will we do that would be like interesting to people? I mean, if we were going to do it, I would want to take a song that's well known, well regarded, but is not proggy and find a way to make it kind of progressive and interesting and give it a new life, a new breath. Not necessarily Beatles, but I mean, we have a couple we've talked about. But honestly, at this point, it's, to be frank, more exciting to work on original stuff, I think.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe.
Maybe.
Have you guys ever played live at all?
Well, yes.
I meant as a band.
No.
Okay, so then my follow-up question to that is, how, guys, do you, being separated, how do you guys practice the material? Because prog is, there can be a lot of movements in prog with songs, a lot of twists and turns and breathing in the song. How do you guys go about a practice then to know the song and get your parts down for the album? Or do you know what I'm trying to ask? It's a different world from when I was in a band.
I'll speak to it very quickly is that recording it, I'm going to make an analogy to movies versus like Broadway or theater. To to do theater, you have to memorize your lines. You have to know every part from start to finish. You have to be able to then like spit it out night after night. But if you're filming for a movie, you really just have to get it once. And then you know, by the time the movie comes out, you may have forgotten everything you did. And you're like, oh yeah, I did that, you know? And so there's some element of an album that is, you may spend hours trying to get this one thing right, and then when you get it right, you don't have to do it again. You know, like, so could I play this album right now? Absolutely not. You know, it would take a lot of practice and a lot of time. And honestly, a prayer that I have is that one day I hope we do get to play together, whether it's, you know, it's a festival or it's something to be one off or whatever, or we do like some sort of small tour. That would be great. But I'm also at peace with, you know, maybe it's just a recording project, you know? So we have to meet at least one day in person. That has to happen.
Yeah. The Kyles have occupied the same.
Yeah.
And Rob and I have been, we've been together before too. So at least we know each other in pairs.
Father Mackenzie writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at him working, donning his socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care? All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong?
The forthcoming album, is there a working title that you can share?
Yep. Sophomore album.
Eleanor Rigby and more progressive stuff. No,
Album number 2. No, there's not a working title just yet. And I would tell you if there were, but no.
Okay.
That'll take hours and hours of conceptual work and
but it's well along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think most of my parts and Rob's parts have already been recorded. All the songs have been written. It's just you know, I'm waiting to start working with Kyle and KG on getting their parts, but a good bit of it is already recorded. So,
Is there a projected release that you guys are aiming toward? I know you can't pinpoint it, but is there?
I would like to release an album a year. I'm really strong-headed about this. Rob and I already, and this is just between us and whoever else is watching. Rob and I have already written most of the music for for album number 3. You know, and of course we've written a good 50 minutes worth of music. It won't be presented to Kyle and KG until after they've you know, after we've got this second one in the back, and they may hate some of it and say, no, you know, we're going to rewrite this way. But
we see who the bottleneck is. It's the Kyles, I guess.
Rob and I just work at an insanely quick speed, but no, I don't think we haven't even discussed an album title for the next album. KG has written some amazing lyrics and put some amazing melodies to some of the music that Rob and I have written, and I'm just really, really excited for people to hear it.
What about working song titles then? Can you disclose any working song titles you might have?
KG, what do you think?
Oh, song titles can't hurt, right? We've got one called Apostate, which is really cool. We've got one called Prophecy Abounds. Goodness, you put me on the spot. I have some of these songs we've demoed months ago, so I haven't really thought about the titles of them. What else you got, Doug?
Know them all.
Apostate has actually been changed. Apostate. I think I changed it to the Serpent and.
Yeah.
The Serpent, because it opens with a 2.5 minute long shred fest, a literal shred fest by Rob that is just jaw dropping.
Yeah, it's now the Serpent and the Schism.
The
Schism,
Serpent
that's
and
right.
the Schism. That's and it's going to be about 9. It comes in just under 10 minutes. We don't have any epics longer. I think the longest song is what, 10 or 12 minutes?
Yeah, probably Gold Bars.
Yeah.
I don't know to what degree. Like, yeah, we're just sharing names of songs, but you know, when you're in a band, you know, these like maybe a riff is suggested with a name that may be goofy and it may just stick, one way or another. And then it may change in the 11th hour. And that's been a fun process for
Yeah.
sure to kind of keep up with stuff.
One last question then, being respectful of KG's time, but
Yeah.
this is evidently not a Kickstarter project. Is this something, has a label picked you guys up, or is this strictly self-produced by you guys again and through your website?
Or will you do a Kickstarter?
All good questions. I'll jump on that. I think we will do a Kickstarter again. I think for a multitude of reasons, that's a good way to approach this. I mean, John giving his kind of story is all the reason I need to know that it is worth it. I mean, it gets people to pay attention to it. There's a certain tension that exists there. Like, are they going to hit the goal? Are they not going to hit the goal? Like we get a lot of people to support it that maybe otherwise would not have. And of course, it's hard to sell music these days and to attribute value to it when it could just be streamed or whatever. And so to do special things and one of a kind things and gifts for people, I'd like to come up with more of that really serves people and that gives them something special. So yeah, we'll do something. We may not have as big of a goal, and we've talked to some potential partners on distribution and things like that. I mean, I said slog earlier. That's the word that comes to mind. It's all a slog. It's a lot of work, like getting this stuff together, getting it out there, getting people excited about it, shipping it to them, shipping it to Denmark. I mean, it's a pain. So we have people that help us, but it all flows through my home. And I have a lady named Cheryl who helps watch my kids, and she's also our merchandise shipping expert. So God bless Cheryl for that. So. But we'll see. In terms of a date, it's either going to be the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And I think it kind of depends on timing. And I don't know. If you know any record companies want to put stuff out, you let us know. We'd love to consider it. So.
So guys, I want to thank you all for blessing us with this interview. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And as our viewers know, at the end of every episode, we have what we call Message from Home. We want to keep the main thing, which is God's Word. And we like to correlate something with the band. It could be an album title, some song lyrics, a song title, and we correlate that with a verse of scripture. And so from this great album, Whispers Between Worlds, I did choose Not Like the Other, because when I first started listening to that, I was picking up scripture all over the place. I could have went with Matthew 6:5-8, which was talking about people praying out loud and lengthy prayers and, making sour faces while fasting, because that's in there. But guys, I went with Matthew 7:18-23, and it specifically had to do with the last line in the song. And it was saying, you are one I never knew, after it was talking about all of these things, and some pretty heavy words from Yeshua, from Jesus. And in Matthew 7:18-23, he says, a healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, or a poor tree cannot bear good fruit. Any tree that does not produce good fruit is cut down and thrown in the fire. So you will recognize them by their fruit. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who do what my Father in heaven wants. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we expel demons in your name? Didn't we perform miracles in your name? Then I will tell them to their faces, I never knew you. Get away from me, you workers of lawlessness. So, KG, the video was excellent, a little bit of humor in there, but also a serious message. And so just want to thank you guys for the great music filled with a great message. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Awesome.
And we'll just wave goodbye to our viewers, but stick around for one more moment, guys. Take care, everybody.
I know the